everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today we are continuing our adventure in Anastyr from Mythic Games. We're entering into quest number 3, the final quest to wrap up the very first adventure called First Blood as part of this Kickstarter Preview Series. Now, if you haven't checked out any of the prior videos to this point, you definitely want to do so. Otherwise, you're going to get a little bit lost. So up in the top right-hand corner, there'll be a playlist. You can head back to the original unboxing and the setup video to get your feet wet as to what Anastyr has for you, and then get into the first quest, second quest, and then come back here to watch the final third one. Now, at the very top of the activation row, you're going to see a marker that's sitting between Brid and the Jade Sea. That's exactly where we left it off in the last video. We had just finished Brid's full turn, and we were able to complete quest number 2. So going into quest 3, we're going to be going into an event. But first, let's find out what we're trying to accomplish in quest 3. Quest number 3, Swift Vengeance, has a narration here that states, "There is no escaping the conclusion that those barbarians indiscriminately massacred men, women, and children alike. The anger already swirling inside you transforms into pure rage. These damned Kazuls will pay, or must pay, for their heinous crime. You swear to kill every last one." Now, the primary objective below is simply that, slay them all. And the special rule that comes into play here is we're not going to be spawning anymore. So the work that we had done inside of quest number 2 did trickle over into quest 3. If we had left a lot of enemies on the board, we'd have a lot more to deal with. We don't have as many, but we do still have the Skinner, and that is a level 2 specialist, and it's mentioned on the right hand side as well. Amid the fighting, a hooded figure emerges from behind a mound of corpses. Sunlight glistens off its face, revealing the bronze mask of a Kazul assassin. Act fast, or his daggers will be your dying memory. Now, down below, it says secondary objective is to kill off that level 2 specialist, which, as I've already mentioned, is the Skinner, and the hero that does this becomes the leader. Now, you might think that we've got this in the bag, and I mean, we still might, but remember, there's a timer inside of this game, and through quest 1 and quest 2, we've been slowly drawing event cards every single round off the top of this deck. Well, I just flipped over the next event card, and it only leaves one more to draw from later on. How we lose this game is if a hero is eliminated and we don't have a replacement to pull in, so that can absolutely happen as a way we could lose in this situation. The other way we can lose is if we get to the end of a game round and there's no more event cards in the event deck. So in essence, by using this event deck right now and pulling it for the Jade Sea and resolving it, when we go into the next round well, there's actually one more activation after this for level 3 enemies, we're only going to have one more game round beyond that to get everything done. So we really have to be efficient. The event card that we have here is going to stay in play for the entire round, although we're at the tail end of the round, so it really won't be active for very long. Whenever a hero interacts in a space containing a loot token, draw 2 loot tokens. Oh, that's pretty cool, but well, the loot token that is available currently that I left behind earlier when I was trying to press forward is probably a bit too far away to be trying to pull off at this point. It also mentioned that the summons are going to move, as well as creatures if we had any, and they are going to move north based on their movement from the reference card, which is 1. So this could help us a little bit, but at the same time, we don't have these as companions right now, so they are also technically helping the enemy. The activation token now moves from the event card over to the level 3 card at the very tail end of the initiative track, and there's only one level 3 individual in play, the Flare, which is currently stunned in the same position as Brid. That creature, no longer stunned, stands up and is ready to go. Now, as per quest number 3, as soon as my activation token makes it to the end of the round and we're supposed to pull a spawn card, we're not going to be spawning any more units, so we're really going right back to the hero preparation phase. Now, currently across my 2 heroes, I have 1 card for Brid and absolutely nothing for Undraw, so we're going to be doing some drawing of cards. I think I'll keep it even at 3 and 3. Just like that, heroes are squared away. We can go ahead and move on to activating the initiative row for this upcoming round. All right, right out of the gates, we have the level 1s activating, and the level 1 specialist, the hunter, would go first, but that specialist is long dead. So the trackers are going next. There are 3 of them on the game board, and again, we always move based on that top to bottom, and then, of course, left to right approach in terms of activation. So the tracker that is in the northernmost spot by itself will activate first to move, and then the other 2 below, and then, of course, there will be some attacks being made. It's probably a good thing that Brid was able to pick up that battered shield, because I'll probably end up needing it, seeing as all the trackers ended up in the same space. Seeing as we're literally being attacked with actually 4 damage coming towards us because we have 3 trackers and the pack 1 ability gives an extra 1, we're probably going to want to use the battered shield. So I'm going to go ahead and remove one of the tokens off of this card in order to use it. So this is telling us that before the defensive roll we get to add an extra die. So I go from 4 up to 5, and it says the hero ignores attraction and any regular enemy level 1 traits. But that's kind of cool, because now that actually means, and that does actually have an impact, that will completely remove the pack 1 ability off these individuals. So they're just coming at me with a straight 3. I've increased my defense by 1, so I've got 5 dice. So looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and roll. We should be okay. Famous last words. Let's see how it goes. Oh yeah, more than enough. The next activation is going to be the level 2, starting with the specialist, which is the Skinner, who has appeared for the first time. Let's take a close look at the reference card. So the Skinner is a level 2 specialist. It does provide a loot card if we take it out. It has an ability here that says critical 1. Critical 1 is only going to trigger if hit points are actually thrown at our hero. So if our hero takes damage, in other words, of 1, based on it being critical 1, then the bleeding condition is applied. And the bleeding condition is actually going to give us one of those severe injury cards that we haven't seen at all during Quest 1 and Quest 2. And that is going to go on the character applied to. In this case, it would go against Brid, and it would start to logjam up how many cards we can draw on a given turn, and also cap how many cards we can have total across the 2 heroes in general. So instead of having 6, we'd only have a hand limit of 5. Now, it also has a really nasty ability here that is not the greatest that they were able to go before me, because you can see the Skinner says the Skinner cannot be eliminated while near another enemy. And you know what the Skinner's going to do when it activates. It's going to try to move into a space with a hero, which is likely going to put it next to an enemy, but maybe not in this case. Now, this is really fortunate for me and is complete fluke that I happen to have absolutely nobody up top north there and happen to be within 1 space of the Skinner. So Undrel is going to have the Skinner heading towards her. The great thing about this is there's no enemies around the Skinner, so when Undrel's turn turns around, we can start hitting it. The Skinner has a movement of 2, but doesn't need that much movement to get into a nearest hero's space. Makes it inside. It has 3 for its attack. So let's go to Undrel's cards and character board, see what we can do to try to avoid damage. Well, there's a pretty obvious one staring me right in the face. It's called Parry, and this one is a before defensive roll by Undrel. I get a +2 on my defense, which would raise me from a 3 up to a 5, which feels much better when I have 3 damage coming at me. So let's go ahead and grab 5 dice here. Also worth mentioning, my reroll is dead in the water, so I don't have that as a backup. And also another hero in terms of Brid cannot add a +1 in because too far away, essentially. So here we go. Let's see how we do with this roll. There we go. 4 defense against the 3 attacks, so that is completely blocked. Undrel was not impressed that the Skinner came up behind her and decided to attack, was able to defend, and now that Undrel's turn is up in the activation row, she is definitely attacking back. Now, the defense of the Skinner is a 4, which is a substantial amount of damage required to kill off the Skinner. Now, here's the unfortunate thing. For Undrel right now, I don't have a green card in hand to discard to use her special ability to allow her to make an attack with the art stat, which would give me 4 dice. A much better chance of killing the Skinner. So instead, I'm left with just a regular kind of red-based stat attack, a combat attack of just 2 dice. And of course, I could bump it up by 1 by discarding this card, or strategically, I could keep this card to be used on her turn to leap across and head over to Brid to help Brid. These are the kind of choices that make things really tough. Rolling 2 dice against the Skinner is going to result in, well, unless I nail 2 pips on both dice, that's not going to work out, and that's going to force Brid to have to come over and deal with it. And I'm going to have to do some thinking here as to whether I basically switch places with my heroes and have Undral head south and have Brid head north, hoping that they have what they need to take out the enemies in those spaces. But it doesn't look like Undral's prepared enough to go up against the Skinner. Now here's what's absolutely nasty about this. Even with the cards that I have in hand for Undral, she doesn't have enough movement per se, although technically she does. If she uses a maneuver action, she can move 2, which gets her beside where Brid is, and then the attack would be a waste because she doesn't have range. If I decide to use an actual technique card from her hand that's a leap 2 with an attack, again, that's a waste. She'd move 2 and then not be able to attack anything. So the only way to actually land an attack on anything within Brid's space would be to use a maneuver action to move, not do an attack because I'm too far away, and then burn a card to do an attack once I'm in the space, once I leap in. Even with that, rolling 2 dice against the pile of enemies surrounding Brid is not going to equate to what I need to take that whole pile out. So I'm kind of concerned here that I might actually not have what I need to pull this off. There is still a chance that I could roll 2 white dice and I could land the 2 pips. So I'm almost leaning towards trying that. And then on Brid's side of the equation, well, Brid needs to do a massive attack with as many dice as possible, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to pull that off, to be honest. So I think switching places, long story short, is not giving me any kind of gains. It's actually burning too many basic actions and other useful attacks potentially. So I think I'll just keep my heroes where they are, and we're going to roll for Undral, and I literally have no reroll, but I can go ahead, and I'd rather just discard this card for the +1 for combat, so at least I'm getting a 3 on this attack. That would make a little more sense. It increases my chances of getting the double pip, which I need 2 of them in order to take down the Skinner. So, you guys ready for this? I don't know if I'm ready for this. This is probably not going to go the way I wanted to, but who knows? Let's see how this goes. Come on, I need this hit. This hit has to land, really. And then, of course, Brid needs to do her job, too. But here we go. Oh, just a pip short. I just needed one of them to flip. So that attack, unfortunately, is not enough to take down the Skinner, just shy by 1. Well, my friends, that is going to probably throw enough of a wrench in the equation, along with the event deck kind of ticking down to a point that we can't really come back from, to put us into a tight spot where we are going to actually lose this. I can tell you right now, I was not expecting that. I thought I had this in the bag. I really did. I thought I had like a 75 to 80% chance of nailing this. And just how things panned out in this final quest have thrown a huge wrench into the equation. An exciting one that I didn't anticipate, and I actually kind of like it because I was going to the end of this thinking, hey, I've got this, and now I really don't feel that way anymore. So with Undral right now, I have 2 more basic actions to go ahead and spend. Honestly, because we're near the end of this play, you could do things like healing and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to really matter. It's not going to make a gameplay impact. I've already min-maxed everything in my head in terms of what I could do movement-wise and shifting things around. It's not going to help Undral, or I should say Brid, who's further south and has already a ton to deal with. So I'm literally just going to go ahead and do a heal on Undral just for the fun of it. So rolling 2 dice, we're going to go from a 5 to a 6. That'll be 1 basic action, and then I'll just increase my fury by 1. Again, when you're playing the game in campaign mode, that'll be something that I'm looking forward to digging into a little bit more about when you lose versus when you win an adventure, and how that continues on in terms of progress. Do you keep your progress? Do you not keep your progress? Those kind of things I'm going to dig into a little bit more. Within this prototype, it's not set up for a campaign play, so I don't know the differences between what happens in Adventure 1 and what gets transferred over to Adventure 2. The actual campaign page would specify a lot of this information, and I'm going to be digging in really soon to determine that, because my interest through playing this has peaked insurmountably as I've played through it. I've really enjoyed the speed of play of this game. I find that there's not a lot of tokens, there's no condition tokens, there's no health tokens. The combat is cut and dry, so it's like a roll and you're done. You take a look at some cards to see what you can do, you try to bolster how many dice you can roll, and you do it. And I like that, because it just combat is normally a spot in a game where things just go sideways and there's like so much time wasted dealing with the math that goes into combat. And this really just knocks that out to a simplistic state, but also gives you strategy and how you can manipulate everything. And I like it. It's a good balance. And it keeps the game speed fun and flowing forward, which is what this thing is, a side-scrolling game that should be moving at a quick pace. All right, so next activation is Brid, and I'm going to do my best. I will be doing everything I can here with Brid to try to make this happen. I don't even know if it's possible, but looking at Brid, again, we know Brid attacks regular combat with 2 dice. Looking at the hand of cards that I have for Brid, it's worth mentioning too, before we talk about the cards, the summon the warrior is just 1 space away, so I get the aura bonus of an extra die. So when I make an attack with Brid for 2, right now where I'm currently seated, I get an extra die, which would be 3. I could go ahead and discard this card to get 4 and then roll 4 dice in the space I am while doing a maneuver basic action. And then afterwards, of course, at that point, once I discard this card and do my attack for a maneuver, I won't have any more attacks left, so I won't be able to get to the Skinner. But that's probably the best attack I can muster at this point. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we've got 2 dice plus the 1 for the summon and then 1 for discarding this card here in the middle. And we'll roll it off and see how we do. All right, so we got a single hit, single hit, single hit, and a grab. I'm going to choose to kill off the flare, so we'll remove it from the game. I have a couple final basic actions to use. I think I'll just use this one here for its technique. It says Brid receives a bonus token. So this is how you can get one of these tokens, right? And these tokens, this is the first time it's happened in the entire playthrough series. Could have done this earlier too, because this card's come through my hand a couple times. I just haven't used it yet. But when you do this, it's a one-time use. The next time you roll for defense, that +1 goes away. It's not like a stat boost that you're going to have forever until your character dies. So that's worth noting. I also go ahead and gain a yellow die, so that's worth mentioning that on the next roll, that's going to be a part of the equation too, and then I become the leader, so you take the leader token. It's a really, really good card, and strategically, if played at the right time, that is a great card to have. Now the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and burn one of my basic actions for a Fury. The final event card is a booby trap terrain, and it does stay in play for the duration of the round, but honestly the duration of the round is going to be, well, seconds, because there's no level 3s left. And it says here all spaces adjacent to one of those dangerous terrain spaces are now going to become dangerous terrain. So that would have actually affected everything very close to where we're at. So you can see that dangerous terrain right there in the middle with the wooden pikes and spikes laying there. So those, basically everything around it would also become dangerous terrain, which would have caused some issues for us. We also have to move all the summons, and in this case, we're moving them south 1. That's all squared away, and we move the initiative tracker to the level 3. There are none. We move it to the end of the round. We check the event deck, and it is empty. So even though our heroes were defeated because the event deck ran out at the end of a game round, I still had an absolute blast. Even though I thought I had it in the bag, I really did, and things just didn't pan out. But there is one thing I want to mention here around how you draw cards up when you're playing solo and you're drawing from 2 decks. So something you wouldn't have seen as I was drawing the cards up is the fact that, let's say at the beginning of the last round when I was in the hero preparation phase, and I had 1 card with Brid and I had no cards in hand currently with Undrol, always remember you can discard cards. So you can always go, well, I've got a card in hand that's blue. It's not going to help my odds in getting more red cards. I should probably ditch them. So that was a mistake on my part. I probably should have gotten rid of one of the blue cards to open my hand up for more red cards to come through to allow more attacks potentially. So that was one thing I, didn't do the best to my ability. Now, the other thing worth mentioning is when you're drawing cards up to create your hand of 6, you can draw a card from each deck, take a look at it. So I shouldn't say each deck, but you can pick a deck, draw a card, take a look at it, and then determine your strategy going forward. You don't have to draw all the cards blindly, like draw 3 off the top, 3 off the top of the other deck, keep them face down, and then flip them all up. You're not stuck that way. You can draw 1 off of Undrol's deck and go, oh, I got a red, and then draw another one and go, oh, I got a red. Well, now I got what I need. I'll switch all the rest of the draws over to Brid. That kind of mentality can help you out as well and give you another out in situations like this that pop up. So those are 2 things. One of them you wouldn't have seen off camera. The other one, actually, if I take a look at what Brid would have gotten next, if I had have discarded the 1 card I had in my hand, it actually would have been another attack. Now, it would have been a range 1 attack, so I, just based on the distance and everything else, still probably wouldn't have been able to pull off what I wanted to, but, it could have helped in some way, shape, or form. So my friends, that is going to end off the Kickstarter Preview Series for Anastyr from Mythic Games. Had a lot of fun with this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the campaign myself as it evolves over time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.